My mother-in-law casually broke the news to my stunned self. We're going to be living together now. We just remodeled it into a duplex for convenience. The property is in your name, right, Emma? Sorry to bother you, but could you please cover the $80,000 remodeling bill? My mother-in-law and husband laughed triumphantly. Witnessing this, I, filled with resolve, was about to confront them with the truth that even my husband didn't know, along with the evidence. I am Emma Davis, 26 years old. I live a bit away from the downtown, in a nature-rich area, and work an office job while drawing illustrations as a hobby. Lately, I enjoy uploading my drawings on social media and reading the comments on them daily. I have a husband who is 3 years older than me, and we're enjoying our married life in a favorite old farmhouse that we bought right after our wedding. But there has been a visitor to this house once a month since we got married, who always gives me a headache. Emma! Emma! I'm here! Please open up quickly! Hearing the persistent banging on the sliding front door, I rushed to it. Ah, mother-in-law. I'll open it right away. Even though there's a perfectly good doorbell right next to the door. I try to make a smile and open the sliding door. There are so many bugs around here. It's so annoying. Is George still at work? Poor thing. Even on Saturday. Oh, I brought some of his favorite food. I see a woman holding a large bag, looking tired from waiting beyond the door. While dealing with her rapid-fire chatter, I paced on a fake smile. The once-a-month visitor is my husband's mother, that is, my mother-in-law. My husband being an only child, she insists on taking care of him even after our marriage, and to my gratitude, she even instructs me on house chores. The last time she came to our house, she rearranged all the food in the fridge, and I had to start the next day's breakfast preparation from hunting down the ingredients. I recall my husband repeatedly telling me before we got married, if my parents ever need care, we'll live together. I want you to understand that. I'm disappointed to think I might have to give up this beloved old house when the time comes, but I've come to accept it. What bothers me more is the thought of living with this mother-in-law 24/7. Sorry for my husband. It fills me with a bit of gloom. Fast forward 2 years into our farmhouse married life. I heard my husband that my father-in-law had slipped on the stairs at home and broke his leg. They will need our help from now on. Let's live together, just as we discussed before our marriage. Yes, I'm worried too, so I think it's a good idea. Can I continue my drawing hobby? I was worried about my father-in-law's health, so I agreed without hesitation to move in together. However, I was anxious that being caught up in housework and taking care of my in-laws might rob me of the time for my hobby of drawing. Whether he was aware of my anxiety or not, my husband just said, I want you to prioritize the house, and left the room, headed to his office. Being left alone in my room, I felt like I had half given up on my selfish husband. While looking back at the illustrations I had drawn up until now, one by one, I began to sort out my feelings. Just as I had made up my mind to live with them, an unexpected event occurred. While I was working as usual at my workplace, I suddenly felt numbness in my hands and feet and was instantly overwhelmed by intense dizziness and collapsed. Thanks to a colleague who immediately called an ambulance, my life was not in danger, but it turned out to be a stroke at a young age after medical examination. Although I had been pointed out high blood pressure in health checks before, I regretted neglecting it without going to the hospital. Including detailed examination, surgery, and rehabilitation, the hospitalization period turned out to be about 2 months. From the discovery of the disease to the hospitalization progressed at a brisk pace, and she realizes that her husband has given her very little concern. After being diagnosed with a stroke at a young age, I took out my phone with trembling hands and called my husband right away. The only thing I could hear from the phone was a disappointing voice saying, I see, so the living together will be postponed, huh? I couldn't respond to the fact that he was worried about the future life at my in-laws' house, not about my body. Since my father-in-law is still in the hospital with a fracture, there was no need to worry about caregiving, which was a blessing in disguise that I could focus on treatment. Also, since we don't have children, there's no need to worry about that. Suddenly, the face of my mother-in-law, who always says, "I want to see my grandchild's face soon," every time we meet, pops up, and as if to shake it off, I picked up the sketchbook nearby. Recently, I've been too busy preparing to live with my in-laws and going through examinations since I collapsed to have time for my favorite illustrations. Once I start living with my in-laws, I'll probably lose even more time to draw. I decided to think of this hospitalization period as the last free time that God has given me, and decided to fully enjoy my hobby. When this period is over, I decided in my heart to do my best for my husband and in-laws, whether it's housework or anything else. The 2-month hospital stay ended in a flash, and finally, the day of discharge. My husband casually asked if he should come to pick me up, but I wanted to spend some time alone until I got home, so I declined, feeling a bit guilty. While I was in the bus, I saw the familiar landscape outside the window and realized that I was already near home. The sunlight hitting the beautiful green leaves was dazzlingly sparkling, making me feel indescribable as I thought, this is goodbye to this rich, natural place. Since my in-laws' house is located relatively close to the city center, my life will change drastically from now on. Feeling a little lonely, I slowly got off the bus at the familiar bus stop. As I was heading towards my soon-to-be farewell home, I suddenly stopped in my tracks at the sight that appeared before me. There was supposed to be my favorite old private house here, but instead, there was a house I had never seen before. Since I had been in the hospital for about 2 months, I checked the position of the surrounding buildings and the way I came, wondering if I had mistaken the location. But it was not a mistake after all. There's no use wandering around, so I timidly pressed the intercom of the house. Then a familiar voice said, "Yes." The voice was undoubtedly my husband. Still feeling confused, I quietly answered, "It's Michelle," to the intercom. The front door creaked open, and my husband in his casual attire came out. "Aha, welcome home. You came home earlier than I expected. I had the day off today. I could have picked you up." "George, what happened to our house? Why has it changed so much?" I interrupted my husband, who seemed relaxed, maybe just woke up, his hair mist, to ask my question with a sense of disbelief. However, disregarding my anxiousness, George only responded with a vague, "Huh? What's up? What happened?" without intending to answer my question. Just then, I heard laughter coming from inside the house. Thinking it couldn't be, I pushed past my husband and headed toward the living room. When I opened the unfamiliar door leading to the living room, I saw my mother-in-law lying on the couch watching TV. She was clutching her stomach and laughing while watching the TV screen. "Why is my mother-in-law in this house?" "Oh, Michelle, welcome back. Hospital stays can be long, but don't worry. I took care of the house while you were gone." I wonder what this house stuff my mother-in-law is talking about. Could it be chores? Or, with an overwhelming bad feeling, I pressed my mother-in-law on why the old house had changed so much. Without showing any sign of guilt, she blurted out, "Well, we're all going to live together, right? So I just remodeled it into a duplex to make it more comfortable." The phrase, "just remodeled it into a duplex," kept replaying in my mind. My mother-in-law was always the type to interfere with our life, but I never expected her to remodel our house without permission. Moreover, weren't we supposed to start living together in my in-laws' house, which is closer to the city center? Every time my mother-in-law visited the old house here, she used to complain about the bugs and the short walk from the station. Despite that, why? A lot of things have changed. Oh, and there's something else important I have to tell you. Turning off the TV she had been watching, my mother-in-law whispered to me with a grin, "The remodeling cost a bit. I believe the title to this house is under your name, Michelle. I'm sorry, but could you handle the payment?" Chuckles, not a hint of apology in them, My mother-in-law said, it's $80,000. And her smile deepened. Remodeling cost? The title to this house? $80,000? The unexpected words felt like a punch to the head, and I felt my legs are shaking. I can't even find the words to reply. While I was staring at her mother-in-law, who was stunned and laughing fearlessly, my husband, who was at the entrance, opened the living room door and sneaked in. The moment I saw him, my feet naturally headed towards him, holding a faint hope that he would surely be on my side. I relayed to my husband exactly what my mother-in-law had said, clinging to a desperate hope for his reaction. But all I received from him was a cold response. "Well, that's about right. Take care of it, will you?" That's right. That's the kind of man he is. When I collapsed from a stroke, he was more concerned about our living arrangements than my health. He's a man who will stop if his mother says green means stop, and will go if she says red means go. A man who always thinks his mother is right. The discomfort and dissatisfaction I'd felt toward my husband escalate once it flooded. I was done. I thought from the bottom of my heart, I would throw this family. "I understand now, George. I am going to divorce you. And mother-in-law? No, Cecilia. Please handle the renovation costs on your own." After declaring this all at once, I turned my back on them and moved to leave the room as quickly as possible. But it seemed they weren't going to let me go so easily. "I've been losing interest in you anyway, so it's no big deal. But remember, this house is in your name, Emma, so you have a responsibility to pay." "That's right. Feel free to leave, but please settle your dues first." I was astonished at the two of them who selfishly made their claims. I cannot help but let out a sigh. Surely, if I turned around, I'd see their smug faces grinning in victory. I refused to look back, standing tall as I replied, "You keep saying the house is in my name, George, but did you forget? The ownership has been transferred to you." I revealed the truth. However, they only laughed at me and believed I was lying, just to avoid paying. That's when I brought up how George had asked me to change the property's ownership when we got married, as he didn't want the house to be in his wife's name for appearance's sake. Since I didn't particularly care about the property title, I had immediately transferred it to his name. Upon hearing this, the laughter of the two who had been so complacent until now abruptly stopped, and I could feel the panic gradually setting in. "I don't recall saying such a thing. There's no proof anyway." Anticipating this response, I turned back to face them, walked past them, and opened a drawer of a shelf from our old house. Let's see. It should be somewhere around... here it is. This is the proof. I took out a document from the drawer where the property and the house ownership were listed and showed it in front of their faces. When I carefully pointed to the part that said the ownership was in George's name, my husband's face turned pale. "That's fraud. I never thought you'd actually do it, and I definitely can't pay such a huge sum of $80,000. I was disgusted with my husband, who started yelling as soon as he realized the payment obligation was on him. "Since a decent conversation seems impossible, let's communicate through lawyers from now on. Cecilia, your son seems to be in quite a pickle, so please take good care of him from now on." Beside my loud husband, I smiled at my mother-in-law, who was standing dazedly, and finally turned my back on them, leaving their home for good. After that, my husband called several times, but I chose to ignore him entirely, decide to communicate formally through a lawyer. Given our already strained relationship and problems with my mother-in-law, the divorce was settled without any issues. In addition, regarding the matter that my husband insistently shouted when he left, "Change of name is a fraud," was decided that there was an agreement between us because it was changed when they got married 2 years ago. My lawyer assured me with a smile that this is neither fraud nor anything illegal. With that, all the uncertainty inside me was completely dispelled. It seemed that the cost of renovating that house was supposed to be paid in full by me as soon as I got discharged from the hospital. Wanting to applaud, I now appreciate the well-crafted, spiteful act of pushing me into hell just after I had endured surgery and rehabilitation and finally got discharged due to illness. In the end, since the house was in my husband's name, it was his duty to make the lump sum payment, and he ended up strangling himself. In addition, I was able to secure alimony after the successful divorce. My husband, who had been hit with a claim for a total amount that he could not possibly pay off, had either borrowed money from dangerous places or hadn't. While I was fighting with my husband and mother-in-law, I received an apology from my father-in-law, Bob, who had been hospitalized with a broken leg, saying, "I'm sorry for my wife and son's behavior." Of course, it didn't seem that Bob was involved in this matter. However, there's no denying that for 2 years after our marriage, he had ignored his wife and my cold husband. After replying briefly to Bob's message, I decided to cut all ties with that family and start a new life. Since then, my health has gradually improved, and I was able to return to work. When I was married, I used to draw illustrations while being mindful of my husband's gaze, but now I can immerse myself in it as much as I want, whenever I want. Originally, I was just drawing as a hobby, but now I get job offers from the social networking site where I post my illustrations, and I now spend more time drawing for work than for pleasure. Now I'm heading to see an old farmhouse in a somewhat rural town. My current dream is to buy this old farmhouse with the alimony from my husband and my savings, and to open an art studio. Today, I'm about to take the first step towards this dream. On the bus, as I gazed out at the scenery, I found myself recalling that day. The day I left the hospital changed my life forever. The abundant natural scenery outside is the same as that day, but my feelings are clear, and I'm excited about the new life that's about to begin. The leaves on the trees, illuminated by the sunlight, look so bright that they dazzled.
Help me find our daughter. On a family hiking trip, our 6-year-old daughter Agnes has gone missing. Despite calling out her name repeatedly, there's no sign of her anywhere. It's your fault for taking your eyes off her. You go find her yourself. In the midst of the chaos, my husband Zeke coldly shoots back and drives off alone. Wait, don't leave! I shout as I chase after the car, but my voice doesn't reach him. Left alone in the woods, I'm filled with dread about what will happen if I can't find Agnes. My name is Marley. I'm 35. Agnes, who just turned 6, is a very kind and adorable daughter. Zeke, who usually dislikes family outings, had suddenly suggested going hiking the day before. Zeke, the same age as me, is domineering and doesn't listen to others, a trait that's always bothered me. I wasn't thrilled about the hike, since my asthma had been acting up for the last 3 days. Clean air will cure your annoying asthma. Zeke decided without hearing our opinions. When did he start speaking to me so harshly? He was a kind person when we first got married. Is this how a couple ends up after 8 years of marriage? On the day of the hike, we drove for about 2 hours to get to the mountain. Upon arrival, Agnes jumps for joy. Wow! Look, Mom, I found these for you. She hands me acorns and pine cones she's collected. See, told you it would be good. Let's enjoy nature to the fullest. Yes, I'm glad Agnes is enjoying it. Although Zeke usually sleeps all day during his days off, today he's oddly excited, which feels a bit off. But I was happy that we could finally spend a normal family day. Let's go further in. The view is supposed to be amazing. After about 30 minutes of walking, I'm exhausted. Please, can we slow down a bit? If you don't keep up, we're leaving you behind. Come on, Mom, hurry up. The two of them get further and further away. I'm running low on stamina, and my throat starts making alarming noises as a cough sets in. Asthma here would be disastrous. Agnes is with Zeke, so she'll be fine. I should go at my own pace. Another 30 minutes later, I spot Zeke, but there's no sign of Agnes. Where's Agnes? She was with you, right? Yeah, she was, but she wanted to explore further and ran off. You let her go alone? She's too energetic for me to keep up with. If you're worried, go find her. She went that way. The direction Zeke points to is full of dense trees, and the path isn't clear. I must find her quickly. This is dangerous. Agnes, where are you? Answer me, Agnes. I desperately start calling out for her, but can't find her, and there's no response. About 20 minutes later, I return to where Zeke was, only to find him chatting with a young woman in her 20s. Where's Agnes? Ah, this lady just told me she saw a young girl walking towards the parking lot. I guess I'll go too. No, you should keep looking in the woods. Zeke heads down the mountain with the woman, making their way to the parking lot. I search again in the direction Agnes went. It's eerily quiet, and I don't sense anyone around. Come to think of it, I've hardly seen anyone since we got here, except for that woman. What if I can't find her? Agnes, please answer me. I call out Agnes's name over and over, but it just seems to get swallowed by the woods. Zeke isn't answering his phone, and I notice my cell has no service. Not knowing what else to do, I go back to the parking lot and find Zeke chatting with the woman. They're both smiling, so I assume Agnes must have been found. Where's Agnes? Nope, she wasn't here. What? Why are you so relaxed then? I couldn't hold back my frustration. Despite Agnes still being missing, Zeke was happily chatting with a young woman. What? I don't get why you're mad. Aren't you worried about Agnes? Let's look again together. Enough. This is your fault for losing her. Go find her yourself. I'm going home. And with that, Zeke hopped into his car and drove off. Wait, you can't be serious. I tried chasing the car, but it's too late. He's already out of sight. Even when I call Zeke, he doesn't answer. He actually left us here? Before I know it, the young woman is also gone, and not a single car is left. What should I do now? The sun is setting, and it'll be dark soon. Thinking of how scared Agnes might be, I go back into the woods. But even after searching for over an hour, I hear nothing. The wheezing coming from the back of my throat is also getting stronger. I'm finding it hard to breathe. It's pointless looking alone. Finally, it hits me that I should call the police. But I can't get a signal. After a desperate search for a signal, I finally reach the police, only to learn Agnes was safely found by a passerby. I hail a taxi to go get her. As soon as Agnes sees me, she runs to me crying. Mom? Thank God you're okay. Are you hurt? No, Mom, I was scared. I'm so sorry, Agnes. Maybe it's the relief, but I can't stop coughing. Agnes gently rubs my back. Mom, are you okay? Don't worry, we'll go to the hospital right away. I thank the police officer and we head to a nearby hospital for my asthma treatment. Luckily, it's not severe, and I start feeling better after the inhaler. But then Agnes drops a bombshell. Mom, one of Dad's friends told me about a place full of beautiful flowers. I was with her, and the next thing I knew, I was alone. Wait, you didn't go exploring in the woods? No, I wouldn't do that. Do you remember what this woman with Dad looked like? Agnes pulled out her toy camera and showed me a picture she'd taken. It was of a young woman Zeke had been with earlier. And they were snuggled up, clearly more than just friends. Could he be cheating? The shock made me feel dizzy, and I crouched down right there. Mom, are you okay? Still coughing? I'm fine. Seeing Agnes's worried face, I realized I couldn't give in now. He won't get away with this. I'm going to dig deep. To keep Zeke from knowing my whereabouts, I turned off my phone's location and decided to stay at my brother's nearby apartment from that day on. My brother Galton had recently moved in, and Zeke didn't know that our house was visible from there. However, Zeke's car wasn't home, and the house was dark and quiet. Where could he be? I took out my phone and called Zeke. What do you want? How could you leave us behind? Because you're annoying. So, did you find Agnes? Yes, she's safe. And my asthma's gotten bad, so I'm going to be hospitalized for about a week. Agnes will stay at my parents' house. Really? You sound almost happy about it. I'm glad Agnes is safe. Take care. My mistrust for Zeke, who was not only unapologetic, but also blatantly lying, only deepened. He didn't even ask which hospital I was in. He's probably with her right now, planning something awful. I was burning with rage, but I had to wait until I saw the truth for myself. Finally, Zeke came home late at night and left for work at his usual time the next morning. In the meantime, I bought a small security camera and installed it indoors. I could view its footage, including audio, directly on my phone. Now, I had Zeke under surveillance. That night, the woman I saw in the mountains walked into our house, and they started having dinner while drinking wine in the living room. Seeing them get touchy-feely made me nauseous. It was a good idea to take advantage of my wife's sickness and take her to the mountain. This 1 week she's in the hospital will be heaven. You are so clever, boss. Right, ha ha ha. Now we can relax without anyone disturbing us. It's not comfortable being together at work. But you always say the thrill makes it better. True, ha ha ha. It seems his affair partner is a subordinate at his workplace. They even seem to be doing something suspicious at work. I can't believe this. Absolutely unforgivable. They were laughing happily, hugging each other. Now's my chance to catch them in the act. I left my brother's house, entered mine quietly, and approached the living room. Confirming they were in the middle of it all, I started recording on my phone. Then I opened the door with a loud noise. Well, well, aren't we lively? Why are you here? You're supposed to be in the hospital. Ow, ow, ow! Caught off guard, they couldn't even separate. Help! Someone help! Seeing the two of them in agony, I've gone past shock and now just feel pathetic. Please, call an ambulance. Sirens wail and a crowd gathers outside our home. Because Zeke and the woman were screaming so loudly, neighbors are starting to take notice. The two of them, covered only with bedsheets, are loaded into the ambulance. As his wife, I follow them to the hospital. And then, not long after arriving and getting medical attention, Zeke and his mistress are released. The doctor said they were free to go, so the two of them are shivering on a hospital bench, wrapped only in sheets as they have no clothes. This is just pathetic. When did you get out of the hospital? I was never admitted in the first place. I've been keeping tabs on you, you know. What? How? From my brother's new apartment. It has a clear view of our house. Huh? I sighed and handed them hospital pajamas I borrowed from the nurse's station. I couldn't bear to watch their disgrace any longer. They hurriedly put on the pajamas. So, how long has this been going on? You got it all wrong. She just came to drop off some work documents. Oh, really? I tell Zeke about what I heard from Agnes and show him the picture she took. This is... You left Agnes alone in the mountains just to get cozy with her, didn't you? That's not true. She was gone when I realized it. Zeke tries to play dumb. As I replay the conversation I heard between them in the living room, both Zeke and the woman are clearly shaken. Still going to deny it? Well, about that. I can't believe you waited for me to be away to meet up with her. What's wrong with you? Look who's talking. You're the one spying on me. Can you say that after leaving our sick child and me alone in the mountains? Seeing Zeke's lack of remorse, I could feel my feelings for him dwindling away. I'll never forgive you for putting Agnes in danger. Let's get a divorce. Divorce? Why? How can you even ask that? If you're so well matched with her, then just go be with her. As I glare at the woman sitting next to me, she glares back. She tries to intertwine her arm with Zeke's. However, Zeke shakes off her arm and grabs my hand. I was just messing around with her. I never intended to ruin our family. And to be honest, it was painful and awful, so I'm breaking up with her. What? The woman's face contorts like a demon's. She slaps Zeke across the face. Are you kidding me? What are you saying? Enough. I'm tired of women who are only younger. That's cruel. You said you'd marry me after you divorce. Watching their quarrel unfold, I'm beyond disgusted. Both the woman who knew he was married and Zeke, who would surely repeat this behavior, are to blame. Cut it out! This is a hospital. Keep it down. Finally, both quiet down at my scolding. Seems like they both need a heavy dose of self-reflection. You better prepare yourself. I'm reporting you to the police for abandoning me and our young daughter in the mountains when I was sick. What? Is that a crime? Of course it is. Yikes. Please give me a break. Just forget the police. Both suddenly backtrack, looking up at me apologetically. Although they're saying sorry, their hearts aren't in it, I bet. That's not all. I want the house sold for the division of property, and $30,000 for infidelity compensation. Don't forget the child support for Agnes. Please forgive me. I'm sorry. And you, who laid hands on Zeke, owe me $30,000 in damages as well. We can't afford that. Not my problem. You'll have to take out loans. Oh, God. If you've learned anything, stay away from men with families. Got it? Please rethink this. Zeke suddenly bows down to the floor in apology, and the woman hastily follows suit. What is there to rethink now? I look down on both of them with disdain. No way. I'll inform your company about this as well. Goodbye. This is the worst. I left Zeke and his affair partner yelling and immediately went to the police to file a report. Soon after, they were both arrested for abandonment charges related to me and my daughter Agnes. According to my lawyer, it's going to be a pretty serious offense for them. Zeke and his mistress lost their jobs as a result. I finalized the divorce and made them pay the affair settlement and child support in one lump sum with the money from selling our house. I was even able to get a settlement from the mistress, paid from her severance package. As I was considering moving out of the apartment, Galton, who had been so helpful, said, I worry about you and Agnes living on your own. Why don't you stay here with me? Taking him up on his kind offer, I'm now happily spending each day with my loving daughter and beloved brother. Perhaps because my stress has gone down, my asthma attacks have also stopped, and I'm feeling great now.